Hi, this is Tanya. This is my channel, Tea Talks 93. I wanted to do another review of Bridgerton again today. We're still in season one, or back in season one. There's 3 seasons now out. I wanted to go back to season 1, episode 4, which is called An Affair of Honor. So in this episode, Simon has let Daphne down. She's no longer helping her find a beau, so he's figured out that she is being looked at by the Prince Frederick. And as we know, Lady Danbury had talked to Simon and said, if you're not going to pursue her and really be serious about her and ask her to marry you, then you need to let her go. And you can see in his face that he didn't like that idea, that he didn't want to let her go, and you could tell that he had feelings toward her. But as we know, he has some issues with not wanting to marry and provide an heir for the dukedom. So then Daphne starts looking toward building a relationship with Prince Frederick. She's seen in this beautiful white gown coming down some stairs at one of the balls, and she like drops her fan and he picks it up, and then everybody in the ballroom knows that Daphne is seeking to marry maybe Prince Frederick. She keeps looking, like when they're she's dancing with the prince, or she's at different places that they have social atmosphere, she keeps looking for Simon. So you can tell that Daphne also has strong feelings towards Simon and enjoyed being with him, and it seemed like she was sad about the loss of that friendship and being with him as much as she had been during their dances and balls and things. Her brother Anthony takes her to watch a fight or a boxing match with I think it's Mr. Monrich, who is the Duke, Simon's really good friend. And then the prince has somebody that he's put up against him, and they are watching that fight. And of course that is inappropriate for a lady of the time to be attending, and when her mom finds out, she's not very happy about it. But Prince Frederick speaks to Anthony after they have had a couple of balls together and danced a few times. It's really a very short time period. Anyway, he asks Anthony if he could marry Daphne, if he could ask her. And Anthony basically says, you know what, I learned my lesson with creepy Bridgerton, that I'm not going to be making decisions for my sister, so you need to ask her. But he let Daphne know this, and that he would approve Prince Frederick. He seemed like a good person to marry if she chose to do that herself. Now, of course, Cressida is upset that Daphne, quote, stole her chance to be with the prince. They're at the modiste, and she's like, why did you have to take my man, basically? And Daphne says, the man made his choice. What was I to do? So basically, it doesn't matter if you love them or not. If it is a good, appropriate choice, there's no reason to not accept them if they ask. So it was up to the man. And the women, you can see again that their choices are limited. Like, even some of the women would be married off by their fathers and have no say whatsoever. So they're kind of like property. When the prince hints that he's going to ask Daphne for her hand during a dance, Daphne panics and goes outside to get some fresh air. He had gifted her a necklace, and she rips it off, and she just like having trouble breathing because she's so anxious. And then Simon finds her out there, and then they get caught by Anthony in a compromising position. They were rounding the bases, and Anthony gets very upset, pulls them apart, and is like, you have to marry her or meet me at dawn, basically. And then Simon's like, well, I don't have any plans on getting married. And he's like, he loves her. You can tell he loves her. He wants her, but he's not letting himself because of his stupid pride. But anyway, they determine that they are going to meet at dawn to settle it with a duel. which is illegal, and everybody's like, you cannot do that because it's illegal and you're going to get arrested or killed, one of the two. So Anthony is like making arrangements for the properties and for Benedict to take over if something happens to him. And he's like, either way, if I win, I don't, because I have to leave the country, and if I don't win, I'm going to be buried. So he also is worried about his mistress and making sure that she is being taken care of. Or if he gets to flee the country, he like goes over and asks her, would you flee the country with me? And we could be together, be married, and nobody will know who we are if we're somewhere else. And they think about doing that. So Eloise during this time is trying to find out who Lady Whistledown is. The queen has approached her and told her to kind of investigate and tell her what she knows. She thought it was a lady's maid, but when she goes in, she's like looking through the lady's maid. I think it's her mom's lady's maid. Anyway, she goes in there and she's snooping and trying to find out if there's any proof that the lady's maid could be her Lady Whistledown. And then she gets caught by the lady's maid, and she's like, what are you doing in my room? And Eloise, she's like, I was just looking for something else. And she's like, no, you weren't, because that doesn't make sense, basically. And so she said, well, maybe you're Lady Whistledown. And the lady's maid just cracks up laughing. She's like, when would I ever have time to be Lady Whistledown when I'm taking care of all you people and I'm working so hard? And if I had the amount of money that Lady Whistledown had, I wouldn't be here. So it was pretty funny. Daphne stops the duel, so she figures out that Cressida saw her and Simon in the garden together the night that they were caught by Anthony. And so she races with Colin to stop the duel, and she makes it in time. And then she basically said, she saw us, so we have to get married, and basically there's no choice. So Simon agreed to it, but with the understanding that she understood that he is telling her that he cannot have kids, and she took it as a physical thing, and he thought that she would understand that he didn't want to. But apparently, they weren't completely honest. They were honest, but they didn't clarify it well enough. But so she demands that they get married, knowing that she would not have a family, have children with him. And that's where that episode, An Affair of Honor, ends. And then it goes into season 1, episode 5, and this one's called The Duke and I. So that's Daphne and Simon. They're trying to make their engagement appear more legitimate, like there was no scandal, they weren't caught in the garden, there was no duel, all that kind of thing. So they do the promenade through the gardens where everybody gathers. They do, try to make it seem like they're completely in love, and when anybody asks them, they tell them, we were completely in love and we just can't stay away from each other, and we realize we have to be together. And then when they're kind of alone, they're kind of have this friction, and like Simon feels like she had to settle, and I think she's just trying to make him understand that that's not the truth, that she really loved him, and he just won't admit that he loves her back. Daphne goes to the modiste to get her garments for her honeymoon and wedding, and Cressida is there and threatens to expose her when she saw her in the garden. But Daphne basically puts her foot down. She says, you might want to be careful about upsetting a duchess, because she's going to be a duchess and she's going to have a lot of power in society then. And who are they going to believe, Cressida or the duchess? Because Cressida will not have that title. So Cressida kind of settles down, and basically Daphne says, you'd rather be my friend than my enemy, which is totally true, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. Daphne and Simon and Anthony go and they ask for a special license to get married quickly, like in the next few days kind of thing. and then I think it was a magistrate, I think that's what they call it, a magistrate, was like, nope, can't do it. And they figured out that the queen blocked it because she was upset because she wanted her, so Prince Friedrich was her nephew, so she wanted Prince Friedrich to be the one to marry her diamond, Daphne. And she felt that they went behind her back, and Daphne chose to be a duchess with Simon instead of a princess with Prince Friedrich. So she's like, nope, you're not getting married, you're gonna have to wait. So they end up having to go before the queen and explain the situation, and that they're completely in love, and they just couldn't, he couldn't let her go, Simon couldn't. And then the queen finally gives her blessing and allows for them to get married quickly. And Daphne looks at him like, he gives this beautiful speech, like, I'm so in love with her. It was almost poetic, you know, like, and he was like telling the queen, like, I just can't live without her, and I just can't foresee letting her go. And Daphne just looks at him like, what? Like, you tell them this, but you tell me something different. So you tell me that it's just because of the scandal and that you don't love me, but you're telling the queen, you're explaining things that someone would say if they were really in love. So that was very probably hurtful and frustrating for Daphne. Daphne and her mother, the Viscountess, talk about basically the birds and the bees kind of thing, and Daphne's trying to ask her, like, tell me more about what to expect, tell me more about relations between men and women when they're married. And the mom assumes that Daphne and Simon has already done more than they did when they got caught, and so she thought that she didn't have to explain things to her that Daphne already knew. So she said, basically, it's all right if you're already engaged, then what happens between you two from this point on is between you two. And so she said it happens more often than people realize. So you can infer from that that maybe she and her husband had closer relations than is proper for the time. But so then she figures, you know, I don't have to tell her anything about the birds and the bees because she already knows, which that's a mistake because she didn't clarify what exactly was done. So Daphne doesn't know, and it causes problems. Daphne wants to know, yeah, when they were talking also, she's like, tell me more about what to expect on my honeymoon night. And so the Viscountess is starting to talk, and then a lady's maid comes in and interrupts them, so right before they get married. And so she was told nothing, next to nothing, by Lady Bridgerton. And then it's noted, like, when they do have the wedding, everything looks beautiful, but there's not a lot of people there. It looks like it's just the family and friends, like the Bridgertons, Lady Dansbury, so very limited people attended. Mr. Monrich, I believe, was there too. And then they go off on their honeymoon when this episode ends. And then season 1, episode 6 is called Swish. Daphne and Simon become more intimate as they're now married. They go off on their honeymoon. And then she realizes how little she was told about the honeymoon night kind of thing. And Simon's the one that's teaching her, basically. And that's pretty much what, during that time, the parents expected was for the girls to know nothing whatsoever. And the men could go out and do whatever they wanted, and so that they would know what to do once they got married. And that they would teach the wife what they wanted them to know. So that's big. If you look at it, it's like a big control issue too with the husbands, and they can tell them, you know, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is what we're going to do, and the women just have to go with whatever they say. So Cullen has been courting Marina, or Miss Thompson, who is the distant cousin of the Featheringtons. He does not know that she's with child, and he asks her to marry her because she's trying to find somebody. And, you know, Miss Featherington had been like trying to set her up with these really old men that wouldn't care and wouldn't probably know, because they would probably just be happy that they're married and having an heir for their estate. But she loves Colin, or she likes Colin. I don't know that she really loves him, but she likes him well enough that she's like, I'd rather have this young person who I can spend my life with than this older man. So he asks her to marry him, and she accepts. And then, like, Anthony and the Viscountess, Colin's mother, is very upset that that Colin asked her and she accepted, and they're going to get married. And they try to get him to, like, slow down and make it a long engagement. And Marina, of course, is trying to push it to be faster because she's going to start showing soon, and she needs Colin to, if he doesn't believe that he's the father, but she thinks that he would understand and take care of her regardless, because that's what's proper, that's the right thing to do. Then Daphne is learning her role as Duchess with Mrs. Coulson, who is the I forget what they call her. She's like the main housekeeper, the main person in charge of the home and the properties, as far as aesthetics and what's proper socially, that kind of thing. But Miss Colton is, or Coulson, is very judgmental and doesn't, she kind of is brusque with her, I guess you would say, very judgmental, and it's almost like she's having a hard time giving Daphne a chance to learn and figure out what her place is as a duchess. So also Penelope shows Marina, so Marina's like, why are you so upset with me? And Penelope talks to Marina about her disapproval of deceiving Colin, and why would you do this to him? He is a good man. And we know, like, you can tell that Penelope is in love with Colin, and then here Marina is going to take her love interest away. And so of course Penelope is very upset with it, and especially because of the lie of her being with child and not telling Colin and giving him that opportunity to make a decision, like, do I still want to marry this person or not? Eloise is being pushed by her mother to become a lady and to prepare for entering the marriage mart for the next season. They go to the modiste and lower her hems, and Eloise is like, I want nothing to do with this. I want to be able to read and to enjoy life and to not have kids right away and to not have to listen to a husband and go by his rules. She wants to make her own way, but this Eloise shows how limited the decisions and the abilities of the women of the time have. Even, you know, if you're one of the workers in the general population, you know, the men always make the decisions and the women have to listen to whatever he wants. So it's interesting to compare nowadays to back then when women had very little choices. Is off. So Daphne, she's around kids from the properties. So the dukedom has like a town that it is responsible for making sure that they are getting, you know, farming and industry and whatever, you know, whatever will make money to keep the dukedom afloat, then they're over all of that. So Daphne gets to meet a little girl, and she's like carrying her around, and you can tell that she loves children. And Simon kind of looks at her, and you can tell that he is regretful that he's not allowing Daphne to have a child, basically. So it's pretty sad that she wants children, and she thinks that